I never liked walking home after midnight, but that week my schedule didn't leave me a choice. The city felt different once the buses stopped in the storefronts. Dimmed like everyone with good sense had fled and left only the concrete and the shadows behind. That Thursday, a wet wind pushed trash along the gutter as I cut down King Street, hands buried in my jacket pockets. The sodium orange glow of the old street lamps pooled on the slick asphalt, leaving the stretches between. Then midnight black. I kept my head down, counting the blocks left to my apartment. For more 3. Then I saw him. He stood across the street from Mittal, unkempt. Maybe mid-30s, his face fixed in a grin so wide it pinched the folds beneath his eyes, and he was dancing. Not dancing to anything I could hear, just moving. First a jaunty skip step. Forward, then a spin, knees knocking together, arms flung out like a broken marionette. The kind of cartoonish routine you'd expect at a drunken wedding, except his eyes never left mine. I tried to convince myself he was harmless. Drunk, high, whatever. I peeled my gaze away and kept walking. My sneakers slapped the pavement in. A steady beat left-right, left until a different rhythm threaded through it. The shush of shoe soles dragging behind me. Curiosity pulled my head around. He had crossed to my side of the street without my noticing, still dancing, still smiling. 30 yards back. Every instinct screamed, ignore him. But my nerves fired off worst case, imagized him lunging. A knife flashing, so I veered to the opposite sidewalk at the next crosswalk. Cars were scarce, just the distant whine of the highway. So I jaywalked through a break in traffic and let the cold air burn my lungs as I picked up my pace. When I glanced over my shoulder, he was in the middle of the road following my zigzag path, twirling as if partners with his own shadow. Light from a passing pickup's headlights sprayed across his grin. His teeth looked impossibly white. I quickened to a jog. 2 blocks left. My apartment building's rooftop sign peeked over the storefronts, a little flickering promise of safety. But the sound behind me grew, a shuffle tap drag that didn't bother staying in sync with my steps. I cut down a side street lined with dark offices, hoping to lose him. For a moment I heard nothing but my own breathing. I risked a look back. Empty sidewalk. Relief loosened my shoulders, until movement flickered in the corner of my eye. Stepped from a recessed doorway 10 feet ahead of me, as if he'd teleported and executed a flamboyant bow. Up close, the smile was worse. It didn't reach his cheeks, just pulled the flesh around his mouth into a crescent, the skin at the corners cracking pale. His eyes were vacant, hungry holes. He straightened, pivoted on one foot, and did a lazy pirouette. "Hey man, you okay?" My voice came out thin. He didn't answer. He swayed closer, wrists limp, hips jutting with each exaggerated step. I backed away, heart banging against my ribs hard enough that I wondered if he could hear it. "Look, I don't have any cash, all right? Still nothing." Oh, just that awful grin and the whisper of his shoes on wet pavement. When he stretched one arm toward me, a gesture both playful and pleading, I bolted. I sprinted down the middle of the street, pumping my arms, feeling the night air tear at my throat. A horn blared. Lights exploded in my peripheral vision. I barely avoided the sedan that shot past, its driver shouting something muffled and furious. I didn't stop. I flew across the next intersection, half expecting the smiling man to appear in front of me again. Instead, I heard footsteps behind Light, almost skipping, keeping perfect distance no matter how fast I ran. I reached my building's block and risked a glance back. He'd halted under a street lamp, one hand propped on an invisible cane, the other tipped like a hat in a silent salute. The lamp's halo etched every angle of that carnival mask grin. He didn't follow when I stumbled up, my stoop keys ready. He just watched, head cocked, like a child admiring a wind-up toy unwind. I fumbled the lock twice before the door gave. Inside, I slammed it shut and pressed my back to the wood, sliding to the floor. My chest heaved. Sweat chilled on my skin. Minutes passed before I dared peer through the peephole. The street was empty, no dancer. No smile, lonely the lamplight trembling in the wind. I haven't walked home that way since. Some nights, though, when the city's quiet and the hallway light flickers, I swear I hear a faint shuffle tap drag. outside, like someone rehearsing steps they've had all their life. And I know if I looked out, I'd see him there beneath a streetlight, grinning, waiting for the music that only he can hear. When I was a kid, the woods were my kingdom. My house backed up to about 50 acres of untouched forest-gnarled oaks, moss-covered stones, and old deer trails that wove like veins through the earth. My best friend Danny and I would spend hours out there every day after school, exploring, climbing trees, pretending we were adventurers or soldiers or monsters. We knew every dip in the ground, every twisted root, or at least we thought we did. That changed the summer I turned 12. We were about a mile out, deeper than we'd ever gone when we found the chair. It was just sitting there, right in the middle of a clearing, handmade, rough but sturdy. The wood had been stripped of bark and sanded, which meant someone had taken time with it. It wasn't the kind of thing you stumble on and dismiss as trash. It looked intentional at first. We thought it was cool. We joked about how it was our new throne, and we took turns sitting in it like kings. Then we found the second one, then the table. That was the first time I felt it, that prickle in the back of my neck, like something was watching us. We kept coming back, day after day, curiosity growing. More stuff kept appearing. A line of stones carefully stacked. A wind chime made of animal bones. Wrappers from granola bars and cans of off-brand beans. Once, we even found an old Polaroid camera. There's no film inside, just placed there. It's like a gift. But what really got to me were the symbols. They were carved into trees in spirals and jagged lines. Some looked like letters, others like runes or sigils or something. I told myself it was just some weird artist or survivalist. Danny thought it was awesome. He said maybe we found a witch's camp. He laughed it off. I tried to. But something felt wrong, and then we heard the voice. It was late in the day, shadows growing long. We were about to head back when we heard rustling, not just some squirrel or deer-heavy deliberate footsteps. Then came the voice, Danny Jacob. I froze, and my stomach dropped like I was falling. Danny's face went pale. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't panicked or angry. It was calm, deliberate, like the voice knew us, like it had been waiting. We ran. Branches whipped our faces. Thorns tore at our clothes. But we didn't stop. Speak. We just ran until we burst through my backyard, panting and wild-eyed. My mom saw us and knew something was wrong. We told her everything. She didn't believe the whole story, thought we were being dramatic, but when we begged her not to let us go back, she didn't push. For weeks I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the voice, how it said our names. Eventually life went on. We stopped going to the woods. Danny and I drifted apart over time. Different schools, different friends. But I never forgot. And then, about a year later, the cops came. I was eating cereal when I saw the squad cars pull into the neighbor's driveway. My mom came into the room, eyes wide, holding her phone. She'd just gotten a call from another mom on the street. The police had found a man living in the woods, not in a tent, not in a shack underground. He'd built a bunker, buried deep beneath the clearing Danny and I used to play in. Hidden under branches and leaves and dirt. They only found it because a hunter's dog sniffed something and wouldn't stop barking inside. They found canned food, old clothes, dozens of knives, and stacks of spiral-bound notebooks. He'd written our names in them, hundreds of entries, dates, times, what we wore, what we said, where we walked. One entry described the exact moment I found the wind chime. Another listed the day Danny cut his knee on a rock. He'd been watching us the whole time. They said he was a squatter, maybe mentally ill, but I didn't care. All I knew was that we'd gotten lucky. One more visit, one wrong step, and maybe we wouldn't have come back. To this day, I don't go into the woods, not even parks. I can't stand the sound of leaves rustling. I keep thinking about how close we were, about how many other kids go exploring without a clue who or what might be watching, because there was a man in the woods, and he knew our names. It's been 6 years since that call, and I still don't sleep right. Back then, I worked night shifts as a 911 dispatcher in a mid-sized town outside Chicago. It's the kind of place where you get your usual mix of drunks, domestic disputes, and the occasional car accident. you develop a thick skin. You have to, or the job eats you alive. But this one call? It still gnaws at me, like it knows I'm trying to forget. It came in at 2:17 a.m., quiet night. I remember because I was halfway through a cold gas station coffee and staring at the screen like it owed me money. 911. What's your emergency? At first I didn't hear anything. It's just soft static. I was about to repeat myself when I heard the faintest whisper, "Help. He's in the house." The voice was tiny, young. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. My heart instantly kicked up a notch. "Sweetheart, I need you to stay calm. Are you somewhere safe?" There was a pause. I could hear breathing, shaky and shallow. Then, he killed Mommy and Daddy. I froze. You think you're ready for this kind of thing? But when you hear that kind of raw, trembling horror, it changes you. I forced myself to keep calm. "What's your name?" No answer? "Can you tell me where you are?" Still nothing. Just quiet crying. Then, "He doesn't know I have the phone." That line, I can still hear it sometimes, right before I fall asleep. There was something so hollow in it, resigned. I motioned frantically to the supervisor to start tracing the call. Our systems aren't. Perfect mobile phones can take minutes to triangulate, and that's if everything goes right. One wasn't. I kept her talking as best I could. "Where are you hiding, sweetheart? Closet? It's upstairs? Do you see him right now?" "No, but he talks like Daddy." "But it's not Daddy." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean it's not Daddy? He sounds like him, but he's not. His face is wrong." Before I could press further, she gasped. Coming up the stairs, I begged her to stay quiet, to keep the phone on. She said, "Okay then." Silence. A minute passed. 2. Then a thud. A sharp sound, like something dropping. The call disconnected. By then we had a location. Police were dispatched immediately. I listened helplessly to the radio traffic, knuckles white on my desk. The officers arrived to a quiet suburban home. Lights off. Door ajar, inside. They found the bodies of a man and a woman mid-30s, murdered, no sign of forced entry, and no child. The house was empty. The creepy part, the phone, the one the girl called from, was found in the outdoor garbage bin. Smashed, but still faintly functional. Traced to a cheap prepaid burner. No prints, no photos. Just call log Zors and one other number that went nowhere. The closet upstairs. Empty. No signs of anyone hiding there recently. No small fingerprints. No child's belongings. The girl never turned up. The police theory? That the killer made the call? Use the voice of a child, maybe a recording. It's maybe a sick impression to lure authorities. Or worse, he made the child call. To this day, no one knows what really happened. The parents had no enemies, no signs of abuse or prior issues. No missing persons report that matched a daughter. It was like she'd never existed. I've replayed that recording hundreds of times since. Every whisper, every sob. I still don't know if what I heard was real, but one thing I do know. That night, something evil was in that house, and it used a child's voice to speak.